This is Margie Felchiune, CEO and co-owner of Interview Connections, and this video is about triggers. An exciting topic, kind of a triggering topic, ironically, but I specifically want to talk about how triggers and leadership relate to each other. And basically what I have learned is you cannot be an effective leader if you are afraid to trigger other people. You cannot lead effectively if you are afraid of other people getting triggered. So let me tell you what I mean. I'm not saying to be a terrible person or to say traumatic things to people. No, nothing like that. But what I am saying is everybody has their own triggers. I have my own triggers. When there is something that I way overreact about, I know, okay, I got triggered. I'm gonna look, where is this coming from in my past? We did Landmark, we do a ton of personal development. So it's very natural now for us to say, oops, I got triggered, like I didn't react to that the way I wanted to, or the feelings I had or the way I reacted to that was clearly too big for that situation than what that warranted. So I must have gotten triggered. Okay, where did this trigger come from? What does this remind me of? And you do that work, you look at your past, you figure out what it is, what you're making it mean, and you get it complete and you move on from it. And getting triggered can be a good thing, right? Because sometimes things get triggered that need to get cleared. And you get triggered and you're like, oh man, this is from like middle school, right? This is no longer functional as an adult entrepreneur leading. And it's time to deal with this, which is what getting triggered allows you to do. It brings it to the surface so that you can deal with it. Specifically, I want to talk about other people's triggers because just like you, other people have a bunch of random triggers that don't really have a lot to do with you and probably don't have much to do with the situation that's actually triggering them, right? Because it's stuff from their past, it's stuff that's unresolved that will make them get really upset at something that is actually a pretty neutral statement or request. So I spent a really long time not wanting to trigger people, right? Because, I like people, I want people to be happy, I want people to like me. And when I knew I needed to tell someone something or ask someone something to be an effective leader, sometimes I would find myself shying away because I knew that their initial response would probably be to get triggered, to get upset, to get frustrated in some way. And I didn't want that to happen. So sometimes I would avoid these conversations, or I would be really indirect. Like I would take that conversation and I would say, maybe you could do this, right? I used very weak, indirect language, which usually makes it worse. When you dance around it because you're afraid to be direct, it usually has the opposite effect that you want, and it just makes things more confusing and chaotic. So what I have really learned how to do pretty recently that has been a game changer in my leadership is not owning other people's triggers. When you're working with your clients, when you're coaching your team, when you're working with business partners, even in your personal life, it's really important that when you know as a leader, there's a conversation that has to happen or there's a request that has to be made, but you're afraid, right? Because you don't know how the other person is going to respond. You don't know if they're going to get upset. You don't want to deal with it. Find those places because when you do that, it drains your energy. And that's what happened to me. There were some conversations that I wasn't having and it was manifesting as being really tired. So look at your conversations, look at your relationships, and I challenge you to look at where are you holding back? Where is there a conversation that you know you need to have that you have been avoiding because you're afraid of the other person's reaction? I challenge you to step into your power, to say what needs to be said. Yes, do it lovingly and with compassion, but say what needs to be said in a clear, direct way. And if somebody gets triggered, if somebody gets upset by that, that's fine, right? That's okay. That means that's coming up for them to work through it. And honestly, working through that is probably the next level of their development too.